Good morning, everyone. So here we are on continuation of our business combination topic. We are left over few small conceptual topics. We have done all the questions, majority type of questions. We are left with few small topics which will help us understand whether a given acquisition is a business combination or not. As I told you earlier, this standard is applicable even if an entity is not acquired. Even if it is acquiring a business, we consider it to be a business combination. So whether or not a legal entity is acquired, that is not relevant. What is relevant is whether there is a business, and whenever there is a, when we say about business, minimum it must have an input and an integrated set of processes. So that is what we would be understanding now. So as we understood earlier as well, a business is an integrated set of activities. So integrated set of activities means there has to be activity which are integrated and assets that is capable of being conducted and managed. So you must be able to conduct those activities and manage those activities for the purpose of providing goods or services to the customer. So integrated set of activities for what purpose? Providing goods or services to other, or generating investment income, or generating other income from ordinary activities. But anyways, there has to be an integrated set of activities. If I just buy a standalone building, that is not an integrated set of activity. But if I buy a building along with the facility, along with some employees who manage that particular building, along with people who do the collection of rent and all of that, then it becomes an integrated set of activities. So that is the definition. And three critical elements is input, your raw material, other assets, property, plant and equipment. So there are inputs. Then there is a process. So you have input and then you have a process. What does the process do? Process converts the inputs to outputs. So there could be a manufacturing process. Okay, there could be technological process. Whatever is the process, there is a process which gets into operations and it converts the input to output, and output are the goods and services which are provided to the customers or generate income, investment income. Those are output. Now whenever we talk about business, input and processes are mandatory. Inputs and processes are mandatory. Output may be there, output may not be there. If output is there, very good. If output is not there, then nothing to worry about, right? So the decision whether a set of activities is to be considered as a business combination or not, we have to understand what is the underlying process. What is the underlying process? And what the standard says is it has to be a substantive process. It has to be a substantive process means there has to be an input and there has to be a substantive process. So input plus substantive process will ensure that yes, there is a business which is being acquired. Now what is the meaning of substantive process? See, sometimes what happens is there are inputs, there are process, but there is no output. Now in that case, you have to understand that whether this process is substantive or not. In very simple terms, what we are saying is this process important or not? Is this process important or not? So if there is no output, especially in the cases where there is no output, is it important or is it critical to develop or convert input into output? Meaning to say, the process that we are acquiring, is it critical without which we cannot get the outputs? So that is one question. So it has to be critical. Now the input could be your organized workforce or any other input. So input could be your workforce, input could be your non-current assets, input could be any other workforce. Whereas when we say the process has to be substantive, the workforce, for example, you have a set of employees. Now these employees have the knowledge, the experience, they can perform the particular process. So we have taken or we have acquired another business, we have certain inputs in terms of assets, we have certain workforce that we have acquired, we have certain workforce that we have acquired, we have certain workforce that we have acquired. This workforce, they have the skills, the abilities to convert the inputs into output subsequently. Currently there is no output, but we have a set of workforce that will convert them into output, right? So that is one part of it. If output is there, even then the process has the ability to continue processing the output. We have acquired workforce with knowledge and experience to perform the process, and activities, when we talk about the integrated set of activities, those are unique or scarce or cannot be replaced without significant cost or effort. So what the second part means is, if output is already there, means input is there, process is there, output is there. When do I say the process is substantive? One, it has to be critical in producing the output. Second, I have the workforce who will apply the knowledge and perform the process. And third, these activities, they produce or they help us produce the output. Those activities are unique or scarce and cannot be replaced without cost. So only when these conditions are satisfied, we say it is a substantive process. Now, as far as your examination is concerned, sometimes they may test, for example, in the recent RTP also, they have said, okay, they have acquired a power plant. Is the power plant acquisition a business acquisition or acquisition of an asset? Sometimes these kind of questions may come. But the way you have to approach the question is, or the way you have to answer the question is there an input? Is there a substantive process? Is there an output? Even if there is no output, if the process is substantive, please remember this aspect. We need to have organized workforce and we have other inputs that the organized workforce can use to convert the inputs into output. So if there is no output present, this condition is important. If there is no output present, this condition is important. Anyways, the process has to be critical to develop the output. If there is no output present, we must have workforce and we must have input that can be used to produce the output. If there is output already present, we must at least have acquired the workforce who can perform the particular process. Now, one very important thing you need to understand here or differentiate here is, if I have acquired a business, I didn't acquire the workforce. I have acquired the business, I didn't acquire the workforce. Now, if I did not acquire the workforce, the challenge becomes, who will use those inputs to convert them into output? I've acquired a plant, but I didn't acquire any of the employees and all of that. Who will use that plant, or how will I use that plant to run the business? So that is where input also becomes very, very important. Input also becomes very, very important. So once again, input, process, output. Process has to be substantive. If there is no output, then the process is required to convert the inputs into output, and we also have acquired workforce and other inputs who can work on those, work with the process to get the output. If output is already there, means the business is functioning fully. There is input, there is a process, there is an output. Even in that case, the process must be critical to continue producing output. Inputs, we must have the workforce, and activities which are applied to inputs, they are required to get the output, and those are scarce and cannot be replaced. Now, sometimes what happens is, there is a business, the business is non-operational. The business, it is non-operational. Non-operational means what? There is no output. Now, in that case, what you need to check? In that case, you need to check whether there is input, whether there is a critical process, and whether we have the organized workforce which can use the input. So that is when the condition is satisfied.